Hi, I'm librettist Matt Boresi, co-founder of the Decameron Opera Coalition. On October 1st, 2021, the Decameron Opera Coalition unveiled Heroes, its latest project studying heroism, large, small, past, and present, through operatic world premiere short films. One of those films is Heroes of New York, produced by Bear Opera, a newly commissioned work. And with me today is much of the creative team behind Heroes of New York. Perhaps you've already seen it and want to find out more about this wonderful work. Perhaps you'd like a primer on what you're about to see before you click. I've got some great guests here. I'm going to call their names and I'd love them to introduce themselves and say what they did on the project. First, we'll begin with Malena.
Hi, I'm Malena de Yen. I was the director of this production.
Marvelous. Brianna?
Hello, my name is Brianna Hunter, and I was the librettist for this project.
Very nice. And Dina?
Hi, I'm the composer and the music director for the project.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. All right, so let's talk about your subject matter first, because I'd say yours is a bit of an unconventional approach to the material. You've chosen a handful of subjects who might be considered everyday New Yorkers, I suppose, or at least not, historical figures, or not yet, and studied them. So let me ask you, how did you come upon your subject matter, and tell us as much as you feel comfortable revealing about the subjects.
So I think early on the team got together. We knew the theme for this season's Decameron project, and we started debating, like, okay, what New York heroes do we want to highlight, right? Each of us had to do heroes from the city that our company was from. And of course, New York is, it's chock full. So there were, we had lists and lists and lists of ideas. And I just had it in my brain that I really wanted to highlight just the everyday people, the tiny acts of heroism that mean so much. And if you live here, this can be a really hard city to live in, but it can also be a beautiful city of extraordinary community. And I just really wanted to feature that aspect. And I will also say, many of you may know the Humans of New York account is one of my favorite Instagram accounts. And that was another huge piece of inspiration that really, yes, the book, it's so good. So while I knew I couldn't verbatim copy people that were on that account, but it generated, I just immediately was able to picture all of these characters that were just kind of in my surroundings and write about them. And I'm coming up on my 13-year New York anniversary. So it's been a long time since I've lived here, and I cherish this city, all its ups and downs. It's a complicated relationship, but I love it. I wouldn't change it.
Well, without going specifically into exactly who you chose, there's 3 to 5 million interesting subjects in the Big Apple. How did you sort of categorically decide who you'd pick?
Honestly, I wrote a lot more. This could be something that Dina and I collaborate on for years to come, and just continue to release episodes of Heroes of New York. And when
I saw the source material, I said you wrote the full opera about each one of them. Each character could be developed into an opera, but it was great. We knew that it's not going to end in the 20-minute piece, but because there was so much, we talked about it so much, a character study and everything, it really affected the music. So there's a lot of information about the person's life is in the music, thanks to the fact that Brianna came up with a whole life story for each one of them.
Well, let's talk about that music, because it's an opera, so obviously music comes into the process early, often, and very completely. The piece has an eclectic mix of sounds to show this eclectic mix of people. I was delighted to see that there is a lot of whimsy in the piece, which was refreshing. So, Dina, how did you choose the soundscape for this?
Well, this is what I like about particularly writing for theater, because you write for the character, and you also that's the double challenge. You write the music of the character for the character, but you also write yourself into the character. And with such large scope of completely, different people from different background, that was really a feast for me as composer to find the sound for each one of the people, and also how the person correlates with relates to New York, because I always sense that New York musically is the sixth character, or maybe the first character. So when the opera opens, before you hear anyone sings, the opening is really music of New York City. So
Well, New York is beautifully represented in the piece. Milena, this is a piece, I mean, this is very much a piece about place because it's about people whose actions sustain communities. And it's a film piece. So we're looking at something, and that's very important. So can you tell us about how we get this from page to, I guess it's not page to stage, page to our
street.
eyeballs?
Yes, we decided to film outside. The plan was really, we sat and made a plan based on our subway card, our MTA, a Metro card. And so we decided the 5 stages for these 5 characters were places in New York, in Manhattan actually, where they would live. So we saw them get to the stage in their bus ride or their subway ride, and then we could go from. I mean, if Manhattan was our stage, we went from to each corner of the stage with our Metro card. And anybody who knows the city, even if you weren't here, if you saw it in movies, you may recognize the places where these characters live. Uptown Manhattan, in Washington Heights, around Lincoln Center, around Carnegie Hall, where many of us went for auditions or lessons. Downtown by the AIDS Memorial. I mean, places that are full of meaning for anybody who knows New York, and where these characters would live. So that was the choice, to use Manhattan. And you see lots of New Yorkers are our extras.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, the camera does move in this piece. The singers move in the piece, so you do see a lot. And this, of course, wasn't like a massive Hollywood production where you can just close down Times Square so Tom Cruise can run through it. What were the challenges of filming in such a populous place?
It was actually so much fun. I was worried about the challenges, and we planned. I mean, we scouted first and tried to pick times of the day in which lighting would be right and the movement in the place would be right. But New Yorkers are used to see performances and even famous people walking around. They didn't mind. They walked. They let us go. Sometimes they just walked by. They didn't care. And several times they were filming in their own phones as they walked by this, crazy troupe, filming in the street, the soprano singing in the corner. You actually see in some places, people in the back filming what we were doing. They really became characters in the show, and I think it was really moving, especially coming out of a pandemic. People seem excited to see us working outside.
That's wonderful. And I love the thought that somewhere there are people watching a movie of your movie.
Correct.
So videography is obviously a big part of this, and we don't have your videographer here with us today, but could you speak to their work?
He was amazing, Brian Gonzalez. It's really a film. He's an amazing artist. We work together, totally in pair in the conception of the work. And then, we had a plan on what places we wanted to see. As Dina was saying, New York is a first character in the movie, so we were really filming New York and our characters living, fighting with and enjoying the streets of New York. He had a lot of amazing equipment that I was very interested in seeing him trying all the different ways to see the city in a very dynamic way. Yeah, he was great. I'm very lucky to collaborate with him.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about the cast, because this piece is very character driven. The music is bursting with character, so the sound matters quite a bit. I know the work that Brianna put into making these characters not sort of broad New York types, but really quite specific representations of some people in ways that are unexpected. So the casting of this could just not be accidental. Please, any or all of you, tell us about how you chose who you chose.
So it was interesting. I think I had some ideas, like once it was done, I had some ideas while Dina was composing. And then on top of that, you know, as she was like, okay, I think this is definitely like a mezzo, or this is definitely soprano. And, you know, we would kind of hone in. And then, yeah, it just became really clear. Like, I remember with David, it was like super clear we wanted him to play the oyster, our oyster person, our oyster lady. When I was writing The Sex Worker and Dina started to send me clips of music she was thinking about, I immediately thought of my friend Patrice, who I'd worked with before, and said, I need to hear her sing this. So I think as the music and characters and libretto kind of really came together, it became very clear who we needed to play these people. And I was blown away the first time I heard the recording session from these amazing, wildly talented singers, the way they really deeply understood and embodied each of these characters. It was beyond anything it was beyond my wildest dreams. So I'm so grateful to them.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, each one of them also brought so much of their personality into it and their insight. And it was very clear, spot on. You know, we were talking with Brianna. I'm like, Brianna, they really, each and every one of them, they really, really get it. And they, you know, enhanced everything we did, music and lyrics and libretto, everything that we wrote, it came together so vividly. So it's just a group of people that are super talented and with great personalities. And so I, you know, it is a rare case where while working with them, I said, you know what, I could just relax and enjoy because you don't need to talk too much, explain too much. You don't need to micromanage anyone because everyone is such a great singer and personality. So I let each one of them kind of live with this character. And there was lots of freedom for each one of them, how it was really a collaboration. How each one of them would like to portray the character. And I think it really worked.
Very nice. Elena, how much direction did you have to give? I mean, being so character-driven, being so performer-driven, how much did they just click into these pieces? How much did they lean on you and vice versa?
Look, everyone was different. We met before, we talked, everybody had different questions about the character. Also, each character had different challenges. But I have to say, and I imagine all the companies in the coalition will echo the same experience. Already last year and this year, it's so amazing to see how the singers, I mean, every artist in the medium had to be super nimble and try something completely new. So I'm talking about, I mean, I studied, I'm a singer myself. I didn't finish my master's being prepared to film in the street of New York, you know, lip singing to a recording I did 2 weeks before. It was a crazy challenge. And it was awesome to see them, you know, being so creative on the spot. So I did direct, but I do see my place more as a coordinator. I mean, I have a vision, but we are creating together. And each of these singers had a very clear personality and understanding of the role that went beyond what I could imagine, you know, on my desk just by myself. When we were there together, even the reactions of, as I was mentioning, New Yorkers walking by, even that fed on what we were doing, right?
No, I want about my favorite moment. So there's one day of filming that I was there because I made a little cameo. Milena had me make a cameo in the film. And there was such a unplanned moment where we were getting David on the bus, remember? Because each piece is like connected with a mode of transportation. It's so cool, right? How Milena was talking about the MTA card. And there was a moment where David literally just had to help a woman get off the bus, like with her cart. And it was so perfect and genuine. And the way he just like went with it. And we just
that was not planned. We waited for the bus. We didn't hire a bus for this production. We just waited for the bus. And when the bus arrived, there was a lady coming out. So David had to help her, and that stayed in the film. So you know, that's the kind of thing that it was just it happened. And I think it's priceless in that sense. You know, we couldn't have planned it better.
Oh, I love that. Wonderful. Well, you know, last year's coalition project was a Hail Mary, was an emergency project to keep opera alive during the pandemic. This one is trying to keep streaming filmed opera alive as a new form that people appreciate. And the four of us have all become grizzled veterans of streaming classical lyric theater over the course of the past year. So now that we've all experienced this and its particular trials and tribulations, how was this project different, or how have you built upon things that you've streamed in the last year for this particular piece?
This particular project, I did lots of projects in the last couple of years, and in, you know, all the spectrum, what we did last year, it's really so different what Bear Opera did last year for this challenge of the DOC. We decided to try something different. We wanted, you know, technically completely different. Actually, I was not part of the first flame, the igniting, so Brianna can tell you a little more. But I know we did observe what the colleagues did last year and what was successful. So we wanted to try, okay, we did this, now let me see how it feels, what's the result, trying it in this different way. It brought, I think, the quality in the sound, in the final product, sound-wise, it's much higher. Yeah, there's something about the production quality that I think is higher this year. You know, in every decision you lose and you gain in different aspects, but I thought it was a wonderful challenge. Brianna, what can you share about the ignition?
I think for sure the fact that we're all able to film in the same space was hugely beneficial. I think, you know, doing the first project, was the challenges were different because we literally were all still quarantined. So you know, I was just happy that I wasn't having to do any camera work myself or audio, you know, like we were doing all of that ourselves. And with the late walk, like literally like the green screen work and all of that stuff was such a hugely steep learning curve. And now I think we've all kind of settled into like, okay, how do we utilize the technology to the best of our ability? We've also kind of had the time and emotional space to cope with the fact that it is different from live opera. Like, and I think the fact that we are now performing live as well as doing the video is greatly helpful, because it's not coming out of a place of like, we're starving to do something, but like this is another way to express our art form in a completely unique and innovative and totally cool way. And it's an accessible way for a lot of people who still don't get to maybe come see either their performers or see art in their town at all. And I think that's a huge incentive as to why we should always keep this kind of digital arm going in our art form. Like, I think it's complement. It's never, one never is going to replace the other. But I like that we're able to really treat it this go around as separate, separately, differently beautiful entities, different beautiful entities.
Well, it's very in keeping, I think, with this particular piece and its message. Dina, now that you've been composing in a pandemic for a year and a half, and now that we're in a place where there's still streaming opera, still streaming classical and live, has it changed your craft or your approach or your technical side at all?
You know what I loved about this project? I understood, because of the capabilities that we had and the resources that we had to film it, that unlike, you know, just a streamed concert or a stage performance that we are streaming, this is film opera. And as I was composing it, I was trying to be more cinematic, because I knew this is the genre. This is exactly what we are doing. This is a piece that is intended to be film opera as a genre, and this is something that benefits the most from this kind of, from being exactly what it is. So that made a huge difference for me. I didn't feel like, oh, you know, it's a compromise because we have to stream those things. This is what it is. This has certainly affected my writing, of course. I had in mind that it has to be more cinematic.
Well, this is very cinematic. It's very rich. It's very character driven. It's, of course, very musical. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend that you do. If you have seen it, now that you've learned more about the process that went into it, I hope you'll go back and give it another watch at DecameronOperaCoalition.org. The piece is Heroes of New York by Bear Opera, part of the Heroes Project from Decameron Opera Coalition. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.